Hello and welcome to the Method PvP Breakdown. I'm your very experienced host, Bean, and I'm joined today with Chaz and Zuni from Method EU. How are you guys doing, boys?
Hello, everyone.
Zuni is muted, it looks like.
Good start.
Oh, oops.
Oh.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we could.
Hey guys,
What's
how you
going
doing?
on? How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, I'm excellent. You know, the early morning. First of all, honestly, I want to congratulate you guys for making it to the circuit. The second team or whatever second place. So congratulations to you guys. How are you guys feeling about the circuit in general? And honestly, my first question is, how do the circuits exactly work for the people who don't actually know?
Chess,
Okay,
would you like to start?
So first we had these 4 cups, where people had to qualify with being the top point earners, top 8 top earners, and those 8 teams they qualify to this circuit, which is basically a round robin. And I believe it's a top 4. I'm not sure, but the top 4 from that qualifies to the finals later this year. Is that? I believe it's something like that.
I think
I
so,
believe
though.
that's
That
how it
sounds like
is.
it makes sense.
I think that's what it was like last year. So I think that's how it was last year. So basically, yeah, 8 teams make it to the circuit, and out of the circuit, I think 4 teams make it into that final tournament, and that's
Is that when BlizzCon starts? Of those 4 teams fight the 4 top NA teams as well, right?
That's usually how it should have been if it wasn't for the COVID situation. Yes, then there would have been
Right.
a BlizzCon. But
Okay.
this year, it's staying within our regions.
How do you guys feel about your chances on making top 4? Obviously, you guys are already in top 2 right now, but overall versus all the other EU teams, how are you guys feeling?
Well, we started playing now together at this new roster from this year. We had an okay start. I think we can be. We actually kind of always expect to be top 3 at least. And honestly, whenever I'm losing a final, I'm really disappointed. But it's number 2. It's not that bad, of course. So, but I think we can be even better. And yeah, I think we could win everything later this year.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really happy that you and Waz specifically, like, kind of, I thought after what happened, I thought you guys were probably gonna maybe just, Waz was saying he was just gonna become a full-time streamer and stuff like that, which he is, but I'm really happy you guys actually found, Thezia and Zuni. I think you guys actually are a really good team, so yeah, I could definitely see you guys doing really well. So that's cool.
Yeah, I think we'll do good. Of course, there's a new patch coming up tomorrow for the people not knowing, so there's always that speculation on how the meta is going to evolve. But in general, I think we're feeling pretty confident, and we feel like we will do good. As Chad said, I think we're pretty confident that we can stay top 3, and our goal is to, of course, win. So we're going to do everything we can, really just practice as hard as we can, learn as much as we can to just be the best.
Okay, I feel you on that. By the way, chat at the end or during, we can answer some questions if you guys have any specific questions or good questions you wanna ask them. They can always answer it as well. But anyway, here's some questions. So Method NA actually plays a lot of Warrior Mage and Pally and Windwalker Mage Pally. Why don't we see that much of that in EU at the moment? And pretty much, why don't you guys play it too? Because I know Waz also plays a warrior. Do you guys think God Comp and RMP is pretty much just better in most situations, or what do you think are the best comps basically?
Well, it might be true that the warrior mage could be the best. I do think you is a little bit behind, maybe in that kind of meta where Windwalker mage or warrior mage, but. I think we're just basing our picks from our own experience rather like watching others.
Comfortability, probably.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you do think that Warrior Mage is probably like maybe potentially one of the best comps right now?
Yeah, it's one of the best combos, yes, for sure.
Okay. Okay.
And we had it always in mind, but we always sometimes we did play it, but a lot of the times we moved to something else like Shadow Rogue Mage.
Yeah, I would say that what usually happens, and that's the same for every competitive competitive teams, people kind of tend to play whatever they feel most comfortable on, whatever they've played most. And of course, the Warriors, since that's, even though Wise may be really good on it, it's more of his alt. It's always feel
Yeah,
more
I
natural
always
to
want to
play.
play the main.
Yeah, exactly. And so it felt more natural for him, I think, to play the rogue, or for me to play the Shadow Priest and with a mage rather than the warrior mage. There's always that confidence thing in the back of your mind. And if you think about it, most teams usually play or they like to prefer to play whatever their main classes are.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's pretty because we don't see any God Comp or Shatter, or whatever you want to call it, really on NA, which I actually really like watching you guys play it because I honestly, personally, I hate playing that comp. I hate playing against that comp. There's
Yeah.
just too much wizardry going on, and most wizard comps I don't like playing, but you guys play really well, and I could definitely see how the setups are really clean, which we'll see the clips later on. But it's really fun to watch, so that's cool. So a random thing with RMP, I've heard a rumor, or probably not a rumor, but do you guys play the one-shot crit Lego with the one dance? Is that the build you guys usually play in RMP?
That's one of them, yes. Earlier on in the cups, we played the more default build, and then later in the tournaments, we kind of swapped sometimes to the one dance build.
Why do you
depending-
swap it, and when?
Well, I think it was Cup 3. We first used the one dance, and it was mostly because people didn't really know how it worked. Well, it was
I honestly don't
mostly
even
for
know
the
how it
surprise factor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of increased damage basically with that, or how does that exactly like?
Well, you can basically do a thing where you get a really high mastery as a sub rogue, and basically what you want to do is you want to get someone to trinket and then do this one dance rotation in a duel on that player when he does not have a trinket.
Basically,
Okay.
the main difference between the regular build that sub rogues use and the one dance is one dance you have one shadow dance only every minute, I think, but it does 30% more damage instead of having multiple charges of shadow dance, which is what most rogues play. And as Chess said, it was mainly just to, I guess, surprise people and kind of, yeah, it was really more to surprise people and change it up a bit, so they're not too used to fighting the typical rogue mage specs. And it worked out a few games, so we're pretty happy and may bring it back.
Yeah, I've definitely fought a few RMPs with that, and it's definitely freaked me out, like dying through Barkskin, and you don't expect that burst from a sub rogue, especially with the nerfs, and yeah, it's pretty scary. So that's a good idea. Good job. Good stuff. Okay, so another question. After competing for so long, I wrote this down. This is a great question because I actually this goes to me too. After competing so long, how was your guys' tournament anxiety? Like before the tournament, the night before, especially when you're like one of the favorited teams, and people, you have a lot of pressure on you because people kind of almost expect you to win and want you to win, right? So do you guys sleep well at night? Because me personally, I get really bad anxiety. Even for this, I couldn't sleep. So how do you guys like? Do you guys still get that like a lot of tournament anxiety, or is it kind of just like second nature at this point?
I would say that for the cups and stuff online, not really, no. I had a little bit of anxiety last year when we were playing the finals, the last tournament of the year.
Yeah.
But usually when there's lands, there can be a little bit like anxiety, the night before, especially maybe if you hadn't done so well in war game practice games, right?
Yeah.
But usually when the game starts, you're you're pretty much into just winning the game.
So do you sleep well?
Yeah,
That's a weird question, but me
Oh, you
personally,
mean, like-
I don't
No,
sleep
it's
well at all.
It's a fair question, and I think it's a fair question because it's true. Like, I mean, tournaments can give you a lot of stress, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of whatever you want, and I think some people are different than others, and sometimes some people react differently than others. Some people have more pressure than others, right? Everybody's different. Everybody reacts differently, I think, to a big competition or a big event in their life. Can be anything, and it's the same in WoW too. Personally, for me, it's very random. Sometimes I really don't have any pressure. Sometimes there is a lot more pressure. I would say it's usually if we practice a lot and we play a lot, and if you get confident, I would say personally I have less stress, less anxiety, whatever you want to call it. before tournaments. So most of the time I feel pretty okay. There's always a bit of nerves going on, right? I think that's important to have. There's a bit of adrenaline rush before the games, during the games. But that's I think it's positive. Like I take that positively. And but yeah, I just said I definitely feel what you said. Like there's some tournaments where I felt more nervous than others. It really depends how you're, I think, prepared mentally and just in the game, I guess. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So how do you feel about, I don't know if this is actually prevalent in EU or not yet, but a lot of in NA, a lot of people have been playing Holy Priest over Disc Priest a lot more. Why is that? And does that happen? Is that in the EU right now too? A lot more Holy Priests than Discs, or?
Yeah, there's recently there's been a way more holy than discipline in EU for sure as well. I think it's maybe based on. I'm not sure. I haven't really played that much holy, but I do know that discipline priest kind of runs out of mana quicker than other healers, and maybe holy can play a little bit longer game, which usually is needed to better teams.
Okay.
That might be, and
I
it's
definitely
also really good with the setup with the stun, for sure.
Yeah, I think Holy Priest has seen a rise in their popularity. I think it's based on the fact that Holy Paladins have been like getting nerfed. It feels like almost every 2 weeks now. There's like a nerf. They're slowly trying to nerf Holy Paladins because obviously it's been so dominant, and Holy Priests are kind of like slowly coming back up. And we may, I was quite impressed, and I did see the one of the top healer in US is a Holy Priest. And I definitely think we may see it more because Holy Paladins are getting nerfed even more. So yeah, I definitely believe Holy Priest may potentially overcome Holy Paladins in some matchups. Maybe not every matchup, but I think that's a good thing for the game. That the healer meta gets switched up a bit. Not it's. I think it's just more fun when healers are um, just played less or played
Variety.
more. Yeah, there's more variety. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Why do you guys think Paladin is so prevalent right now? And what makes like a good Paladin? Like what makes a great Paladin compared to a good Paladin? Like what kind of stands Paladins out, do you guys think, if you have anything for that?
Well, I would say cooldown management would maybe be, and positioning. It's positioning is for every healer, right? But cooldown management can be really key to Paladins. You have a lot of tools, and you just have to find the best way of using them correctly, right? And not overlapping with your teammates, etc.
Okay.
And also, so I've noticed that some Paladins they go for very default builds. There's a lot of good honor talents for Holy Paladins. That's not really experienced with that much, in my opinion. But I think the better Paladins, they kind of get used to a lot more than just the default ones, which is usually Blessed Hands and Big Sack.
Okay.
If I can add one thing,
yeah.
sorry, Bien.
No, go for it.
So your question was about what makes a good paladin more than another one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say something very important is to just proc more wings than the other pallies too. I think that's very important.
Yes, I
True.
see.
Of course.
That is five head. That is
nothing better than a nice little wings proc, which when you need it, that's
a little proc, of course.
Yes.
Of
course.
So this is a kind of weird question, and just kind of curious. What do you? So if a person's trying to become basically what you guys are, if a person's trying to replicate your guys' success in general, and he's kind of starting from scratch one, it's really hard to find players to play with, right? Do you guys think coaching in general is a good or bad thing? Because me personally, I think it's very beneficial to the person being coached by Minpoike or anyone who's doing it for gold, obviously. Do you guys think it's good or bad for the game? Because I feel like it actually makes learning a lot easier, but then it's also very toxic to the people, queuing ladder, right? We see a lot of people complaining about that. How do you guys in general feel about coaching?
Chas, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. I've been thinking about it, but I do understand that it could be really helpful for the players learning from better players, of course. But I do see why people are frustrated about facing high-rated players playing with low-rated players as well. Right. If I were to myself say something to improve the system for new players in general, it would be an update to the LFG system. I think that should be something that Blizzard should be looking at rather sooner than later, to be honest. Because you can have like outdated information about your experience. For example, you can list yourself as a 2 times gladiator, but it happened 10 years ago, so it's not really
Right.
relevant.
It's so relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I in my opinion, the first priority should be updating the LFG system. In my opinion.
Okay. Do you have anything on that, Zuni, or should I move on?
No, yeah, I was gonna say for sure I mean, in terms of coaching, I don't really know. I definitely think like getting help by someone that has a lot of experience is obviously beneficial. That goes for everything you do in life, right? If you just started working out and you have a personal coach, I mean, of course, it's better to have a coach than to not have anybody. And so I think it's obviously the same in any discipline, in any part of life. So same in WoW, I guess it's always better to have someone that can help you. But then again, there's always that problem, as you said, just you're running into players that have, of course, much more experience, much more skill than you potentially, at lower MMR. So yeah, there's that dilemma too. So I'm not too really sure. Too sure. I think I'm a bit in the balance of both. I guess I can understand both sides.
Okay. All right, so we got some 9.0.5 questions. Indra, so I wrote down a couple of these questions, and if you guys have more to add or anything specific, go on. So this is mainly for Chaz. What do you think of the Resto Druid buffs? Do you think it's actually gonna impact how Resto Druids are in the meta? Do you think it's gonna have a big impact, or just very small, pretty much minuscule, or how do you feel like the rejuve and wild growth buff are gonna be?
So the wild growth isn't that interesting because you don't really use a wild growth other than when you overgrow someone. But the rejuvenation buff is basically buffs to 2 out of your 3 default HOTS, which is you have 2 rejuvenations with the germination build, and you have the life bloom up pretty much all the time. So it does sound like it could be a very good buff.
Okay.
I think I see a lot of people being worried about Druid being like this new healer, which brings back to BFA, where you'll be able to bring it to like super high dampenings, etc. I personally don't think it's going to happen because first of all, you don't play like the Nourish PvP talent does no longer exist. It's in the normal talent tree, and you use Send Ward instead. So like Nourish was the kind of the ability that would make you be able to really go into super deep dampening where other healers weren't able to do that. So it's very possible the Druids are going to be one of the best healers. If they're not for some reason, I would say that might be because of their Iron Bark, how strong Iron Bark is. In my opinion, it's really weak with a 1.5 minute cooldown, and it's not that strong. It's only 20% damage reduction.
Sounds worse than Pain Soap.
Yeah. So, and pain suppression sometimes you die through that too. So.
Yep, I've experienced that.
But yeah, that's what I think about Druids.
Okay. These are just small things. Do you guys think the Radiant Spark buff for mages is gonna, change mages meta at all? Or you think mages are gonna go for Radiant Spark at all, or you think it's too inconsistent because you have to cast it? I know it's kind of a random question, but
no, you never know. Yeah, you never know. I don't think so, because I think the very broken part about that Radiant Spark is not really the damage of Radiant Spark. It's more like I think the damage benefits you get from it. I'm not sure how much it is. Maybe I think you do 10% more damage or something when it's up. But I don't know if the actual Radiant Spark, the damage portion, because that's what's getting buffed, is it really gonna matter? It might.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So I saw Mistweaver buffs, but they look really bad. I'm assuming, Chaz, they just reduced mana cost, which I don't think Mistweavers actually have a mana really issue. I don't know if you played it at all, but I don't think that's really anything. You would agree with that, probably. Yeah.
No, Mistweavers. So I don't think they're gonna be that much played at all. At least not in the top scene. I think there's a lot more cooldowns. They have issues with their cooldowns. I think they're not that strong either.
There's one thing I may add is that you were talking about Resto Druids and healer meta in general. I definitely think that, for example, we saw for example, Holy Pally's maybe we'll talk about it later, but Holy Pally is getting nerfed once again in this patch. May actually open up more healers, and we saw like classes like, for example, like Affliction Locks getting buffed. Even though it's slight buffs, it might actually change up the healer meta. Like we don't know for sure yet, but it may. Like Mistweavers are generally known to be really good against warlocks or things that have dots such as Shadow Priests. So maybe it will open up healer meta differently. Maybe Resto Druids will be randomly become better than Holy Pallies after all the nerfs that Holy Pallies are taking. We don't know. But in any case, it's nice that there's definitely just different healers you can play at higher MMR and not just the same, just like, Disc, Pally, and then Shaman.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of in my questions too there. Also, okay, so random thing. I don't know if you guys know, Windwalker, the bug fixes for the images. Do you think that's going to be very impactful? I know a bunch of Windwalkers were kind of complaining that's really not why they're OP, but do you think that's actually going to affect how Windwalkers kind of are with their damage burst? Is it going to impact it like significantly, or just maybe just you won't be able to notice it potentially? Because they fixed some bug with spin crane kick and the fists continuing.
So from my understanding, because I talked to a couple, and they told me few Windwalker monks I talked to told me that from a PvP perspective, it shouldn't really matter too much. Apparently, it's more in PvE that they're afraid of that nerf. They're more afraid of that impact.
Okay.
So it should be fine. They are changing one thing about. I think it's Xuen. It's gonna be, I think, CCable now, which it wasn't before.
Yeah.
Or it was like not cheapable. It was, you can Ring of Frost it. I think you can like Nova it, but you could cheap it. I don't think it will impact monks too much. It is, of course, a small nerf, a very minor nerf. I don't think it will actually change too much, personally.
Okay. The Red Divine Toll nerf. If you guys saw that, it's basically getting reduced like 25% and going to be slower and stuff like that. Is that just going to destroy Rets, you think, in general, or do you think they'll still be okay? Because, yeah, that's a lot of their one-shot potential, right? So,
yeah.
Are they going to start falling down, you think, a little bit more?
Personally, I think yes. I think I know EU and US have a bit different meta. For example, the top team on it, North America is, I believe, Red Warrior. So they're like the highest. That's like what they do, I guess, the best on the ladder. And on EU, we actually don't see the same trend. It's a bit different. So I do think Reds are obviously really, really insane. They're really, really good. And that nerf is actually quite big since, of course, every Paladin was carrying. So maybe Paladins will go a different Covenant. We don't know. Maybe they have something else that they can play. But that's a pretty big nerf, to be honest. As you said, like it was, the Divine Toll procs is really what gave the strength of the Red, that insta burst. And now that's getting nerfed, and they're gonna, there's gonna be a small delay between each judgment. I feel like that's definitely a pretty significant nerf, probably the most significant nerf out of every DPS specs, I believe, next patch. I hope that we'll still see Reds. I hope they'll still be viable. I think they still will be, but definitely less impactful. Yeah.
Okay, and this is a specific question. Chad, I don't know if you had anything to say about that, but
no, I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with it.
So I didn't really know what this meant, Zuni, but you're a Shadow Priest. The Shadow Weaving is no longer benefits multiple times from damage amp effects. Is that anything that you're worried about?
I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure that's in PvE.
Okay.
I'm not really too sure what that. I did remember seeing that change. I'm not too sure if I think that might be like a PvE only factor. Maybe like the way it's affected by like when you use unused potion or like flask. I'm not too sure, because in PvP the only like damage modifiers you have, PP, the only damage modifiers you have is when you pop things like unused trinkets or maybe your enchant proximity weapon. So I'm not too sure.
And this you kind of already went over this, but basically the removal of shadow protection. Basically, do you think we'll see probably more locks and basically more Shadow Priest kind of pop up because of that? And you kind of went over that already, but yeah. What do you think? Warlocks might become a little bit more prevalent in the meta with that, and also with the Pally nerf, the mana nerf as well. But yeah, mainly the shadow protection aura removal. Do you think that's a big deal?
I think that's a big deal. Yeah, I'm not sure. I do believe that Shadow Priest Affliction is gonna be strong, but I'm not sure how strong. I'm not sure how well like Warriors gonna be able to deal with them. Because it was a problem with Affliction Warlocks that they wouldn't be able to really take any damage from Warriors, and Windwalkers especially. So it depends how well they're able to like live
Yeah.
into those two classes. If they are able to survive them a little bit better, then it's very possible that that might be one of the best combos in the game, Shadow Priest Affliction. And
Okay.
a lot of that has to do with the Shadow resistance aura from Paladins
Mhm.
getting reworked, so it's no longer like a Shadow dot resistance aura, it's something else.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys worried about that in general as your team?
Um,
About like the potential of Lock Shadow Priest kind of meta? I know you know, I don't know if you Thezio or anything's working on a Warlock, but yeah.
Not for now. I'm definitely a bit concerned a bit about warlocks in a way because traditionally warlocks have always been really good against my class specifically, so shadow priests. They've always like been like kind of like a soft counter in the past. I would say to shadow priests. So it's always a bit. I worry a bit, but but at the same time, it's such a huge buff for shadow priests that Holy Pallies lose that 15% damage reduction aura that I'm also happy, so I can't complain. I think Locks and Shadow Priests are definitely going to be even more top tier than they already are, especially Shadow Priests. I think Locks will be really, really good since that's like a huge buff to them, a huge indirect buff to them. So we'll definitely see them more, and that's what I said earlier. Like it may definitely switch up the meta a lot. We may see comps or healers that we really haven't seen too much before, because I think Holy Pals will struggle really hard to heal either Shadow Priest damage or Warlock damage, for sure.
Okay. And basically, this is basically the last thing about 9.0.5, unless you guys have anything more to add about it. Necrolord Warrior banner buff. Are warriors gonna go Necrolord, do you think, or is Condemned too strong, basically? What do you guys think about that? The banner buff is 400 mastery, 30% movement speed for like 20 seconds. I don't think it can be killed either. So,
I
any
do
thoughts on
think it
that?
might be. Do you know what the cooldown is on that? I'm not sure what the
I
cooldown is
think
on
it's
that.
2 minutes.
It
It's something like that.
Well, it does sound like it could be something useful for melee cleaves.
Hmm.
Because it does affect your one player nearby. Is that correct? Or everyone
Yeah, something
nearby?
like that. I think it's everyone, but
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
don't know.
Yeah, it is you and two allies within 15 yards of the
yeah.
banner.
Yeah.
It's possible that's gonna be good in like melee cleaves, or like melee cleaves maybe trying to hit the less like a cloth wearing class maybe.
Hmm.
It does sound like it could be useful for a ret warrior maybe to help the ret connect better, possibly. But I do think
Okay.
that condemn is still gonna be a like Venthyr warrior is gonna be used a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what I really like about these changes, and I'm sure we'll talk about maybe legendaries a bit later, but every like small buff, small nerf like this is kind of nice for the game because they keep you away from the um, traditional specs or covenants as
Cookie
everybody's
cutting.
going. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So now like talking about like Necro Warrior, that's something like nobody's ever considered before, and people might actually do it. It might actually be good in some comps because
Yeah.
400 mastery sounds actually not too bad for yourself and your partners. That might be like insane. And as you said,
Yeah, I mean, as a feral, I know I could probably bite someone for like 25K with an extra
yes.
400, maybe more. So,
So the warrior
yeah,
will obviously lose damage for not playing condemned, not being a ventier, but maybe like having that extra burst may actually open up, some new interesting composition. As you said, like even so many classes are affected by mastery, like Frosty K's, Red Paladins, Feral Druids. Like that's 400 mastery is a
yeah.
lot. I'm not sure how much it is in terms of damage, but that seems like a huge burst. So yeah, it might be interesting to see potential new Covenant specs that we haven't seen before in PvP.
Okay. But now we can get into some clips I got from your games over this week, unless you guys have anything else to add to 9.0.5. If not, we'll get into the clips.
9.0.5. I think we've discussed
Yeah.
most stuff. There's just yeah, I think I'm really excited honestly to play it. I think it definitely hit at a right time from in WoW from a PP perspective. I feel like we're getting a bit
Stale.
the meta was getting a bit stale and very
Yeah.
repetitive in a way. So I think it will actually change quite a few things. I'm sure like next week, when you guys will be watching streams or we'll be watching maybe the next couple tournaments, I think there'll be some couple different changes up, whether it's Covenant, whether it's specs, comps, meta. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's get into some clips. This first one, basically, it's about Pyroclasm and why Thesia was spec'd. We'll see the clip here now. Zico's talking about it, that he's playing Pyroclasm, but he's missing a few talents. I just want to know, what were your thoughts about this playing Pyroclasm, and why? And do you guys have any other, in general, kinky specs that
Right.
you guys have been trying out?
Our initial thought process was that we usually play Meteor in this matchup. We actually wanted to play the third one, Kinderling, right? Is that what
Kindling.
it's called? Yeah. So we was actually a little bit of a blooper because we picked the wrong talent. We're not intending to pick Pyroclasm. So Thesia said middle of the game.
Pyroclasm replace? Sorry, what does Pyroclasm replace? Does that replace Meteor?
Meteor,
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually Meteor, like that big fire thing that
Okay.
the fire mages like to pop on the ground. That's usually what they play. Here was a bit of a, he actually picked the wrong talent, which is a bit unlucky when it happens in a tournament. To have the wrong talent, especially a very impactful talent such as this one, ended up working fine. But yeah, it was a mispick by him, unfortunately.
So Chaz, I know you talked about your paladin, like some talents that people don't really pick. Is there anything like that the majority of people wouldn't be playing that you've tried or played or find good in some situations?
Well, in my opinion, I feel like Light's Grace might be a little bit of an underused talent, in my opinion.
Okay.
There's also there's some times, I'm not gonna get too much in depth because I wanna keep some tricks for myself. But
Okay.
for example, Hallowed Ground, I've seen some use for that. And it's also very confusing because you don't normally fight people with that.
That's the one that removes slows? Is that
Yes,
correct?
it's like
concentration?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. We got this next clip coming up. That basically the paladin overlaps trinket and bubble with his shaman, and later on in the game, it actually pretty much cost him the game. Do you think this was a big mistake, obviously? And when they did trinket, did you basically already know that you were gonna win off this, or what was like the thought process once they overlapped those two? What was going to be the perfect setup to get the kill after this? Because I know in the middle of this clip that you guys watching, you guys actually do go after the warrior and you fear the paladin in like about 30 seconds here. Did you just want to force the trinket out of the paladin and kind of scare him, or did you actually go try to kill the warrior, like wanted to kill the warrior there for sure, or was it more of like a bait? You'll see that in a couple seconds here in this clip, but
Yeah, I think what happened in this particular case, as you can see, first of all, there's a lot of dampening. We're up to 40% dampening, and
right.
Our strategy as Shadow is of course, like the red paladin is our best target, but in a sense, you can see how he's playing. So right now we can't really hit the red, right? He's kind of in the middle of the map. He's behind the pillar. He's just spam healing. He's playing like a holy pally. So we couldn't really hit him until he's back. So that's probably why we were hitting the war in between. But our goal when there's a high amount of dampening like this is to really just spam damage. And as soon as we see an opportunity to get like some cross CC, get a stun going, that's what we'll do.
Okay. Yeah, right here is where he uses the
we saw
trinket on that fear to try to save his warrior. And in a couple seconds, you get a full poly here and a perfect cross CC Hodge, and he just goes down through the prot legendary. So I just thought this was a really nice clip. It was really well set up, and I mean, unfortunate for them for overlapping, but definitely taking advantage of that was a really nice play.
Yeah, basically what you want to do in like Shatter into most melee cleaves is you want to like drag the fight away from the pillar. So you want to have the melee cleave try and move out from the pillar to try to finish the game, but that's usually where the spell cleave shines.
The wizards, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's really high dampening. We're kind of just forcing them to do mistakes at this point.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
I would definitely say to add up on that real quick. Definitely think Shatter is definitely favored in this matchup. So it's kind of up to them, as Chaz said, to do the mistakes and overlap. Like it will happen. There's so much dampening that even like if the shaman, as you say, he trinketed earlier and he Kara, the red still had the bubble. It's the things that happen, and people don't really see the dampening because you're so into the games. You don't even look up and see like, okay, this game's been actually going on for more than 10 minutes. You know, it feels like it's been 5, but it's actually been 10. And certainly, like you're dying a bit randomly. That's because the dampening is so high, and the red can't heal himself as much. So things like that will happen, especially on long games, especially in tournaments. It can happen, and yeah, as you said, we were able to capitalize on that. But it's definitely
Okay.
something that can happen in tournaments.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. As a melee cleave, fighting Shatter, it's not that fun for the
Yeah.
melee. Um, all right, so in this next clip here, it's you against Kawana Gaming again, and I just want to know in this next clip, how important is drinking basically in most of these matchups? Because I see a lot of these matchups go into dampening, um, and you get a pretty nice drink off here, and it's really nice from Zuni. He actually stuns the warrior as he leaps in to stop the drink into an MC with a sheep on the shaman, so he can't purge it, and it's beautiful. But how important is drinking, and do you guys set up drinks more often? Like, do you plan a lot further ahead to set up these drinks, or are these more like in the moment?
We kind of go with the flow a little bit. Try to, like, you want to get the drinks because if you start like with the drinking on like 50% mana early in
Yeah.
the game, it might be that the Mage really tries to overextend to keep that mana from staying there, like staying low, and then try like that way ooming the paladin or whatever healer.
Yeah, right here,
So,
I love this MC. This stun MC is beautiful, by the way.
yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Sorry, go on.
So even if I didn't get the drink, we would be forcing them into bad positions, which would open up kill windows or at least setups to force cooldowns.
Okay.
So it's a lot about just dragging them out of their comfort zone and try to just stay on high mana because once it hits a certain amount of dampening, you can no longer drink because the damage is too much and you just have to stay in and heal all the time.
Okay. So it's kind of like basically almost baiting them into a bad position, and even if you don't need it, it's good to just kind of give the anxiety of them wanting to
Yeah.
stop the drink. Okay. All right. That's nice. Yeah, but that stun MC, when I saw that, I actually saw it live. Beautiful.
Thank you. Take a beat.
Of course, absolutely beautiful. I actually have a follow up with this on our next video. Basically, it's another one where you're going for a drink, Chaz, and the warrior actually leaps in. And first of all, Thezia gets a beautiful nova before he leaps in here. You'll see it in a minute. He gets a beautiful nova, forces the warrior to blade storm. And so then he doesn't have Blade Storm when he leaps in. I guess he didn't have Reflect, or maybe he misplayed. But basically, he gets hodged on the leap in to stop the drink and gets really punished. Has to use his trinket and parry here. So is this kind of the bait you're talking about? You want to basically bait them out to, yeah, basically just bait them out. I think this is the wrong clip. Maybe I'm.
No, I think it was it happened a few seconds.
Oh yeah, okay, right here.
So yeah, that's one of the baits where I basically went to drink there, and so there's two scenarios. I will get mana and basically be able to go even deeper into dampening. The other situation is the warrior will leap and stop me from drinking out. It warned Tessia at this point that if he leaps, I will stun him. So you can maybe force his trinket, which he did. That kind of makes the warrior not. He doesn't really want to do it again, right? At least until his trinket is back. So I can drink now without really being too scared of being stopped.
Okay, you guys love this map, huh? As Shatter.
Oh yeah.
I mean, usually into most melee cleave, it's definitely that's what every double caster composition or team usually pick against. As soon as I find a melee cleave, the pillars are just so far from each other, so it's much harder for them to just run at the pillar and just reset or heal themselves. And just to stay up on that, so we're kind of just making the best out of the situation. There's not much we can do. The warrior leaps in to stop the drink. Boom, we just at least try to get like some CDs out of him. We get his trinket at least. He has to
Yeah, he
use
got
that
everything
sword.
almost.
Yeah, and there's not too much we can do. It's good by him. He's stopping the drink. He has to. He knows that his only real win condition is to have us out of mana. So he goes for the leap.
So they have to do that basically. So it's basically like a checkmate.
Yeah, they actually have to
situation
do
for you
it.
guys?
They have to do that because if they don't, then Pally can kind of just keep us up forever. And yeah.
Okay, and on this next clip we got, let's watch it first because honestly, my notes are kind of bad. So
All right,
let's watch it first.
let's
I
watch it.
have. Okay, so this is where you guys actually die, and I wanted to know if is there anything better that obviously having hindsight right now, anything better you guys could have done. I know it's very late dampening, to maybe make Thezia live here. I know he kites really, really well here, as you see, but do you think it's just too dampening, and was it maybe a map disadvantage or?
Yeah, hook point is a little bit of a map disadvantage because you the healer playing in the melee cleave can usually stay at a pillar at all times and be able to reach their teammates. So that's it's hard for me as a healer to drink. They have obviously a way easier time stopping my drinks here. So I think it was a lot to do with just the map. But
It's
I'm not sure
definitely
if this is the
the
game. I think Tessia said that he shouldn't have pushed in. I'm not sure. I by the looks of it, it doesn't look that much that we. Maybe there's something happened earlier in the game, but at this point, it looks pretty much over.
It was
Yeah.
definitely a combination of the map. Not only it's harder to drink for Chaz on that particular map, it's also easier for the melee cleave to connect. It's relatively small map, and the mage can't really kite as he could. Can't really drag them in the open. As you can see, there's like
Right.
little pillars a bit everywhere. It's that's also the reason why most cleaves pick this map usually. Especially when they lose the first game, they kind of pick this map. Because they know it's definitely easier to deal with a shatter, easier to deal with a spell cleave on this particular one. But yeah.
Okay. All right, so this next video we have is I kind of wanted you guys to go through the thought process of your CC. And I actually saw that this was a really nice play from you, Zuni, is you see here he gets actually DB'd, so he's on Fear DR. And I see later on in this clip, about 20 seconds from now, you actually wait for the Fear DR to get the Fear Silence. But yeah, if you guys just want to go through the CC here, I know he dispels, and then he eats that full Nova into a ring, which is beautiful by Thezia. But what could you guys have done anything better to actually secure the kill here, or what do you guys think exactly?
It's kind of hard to go through bubble, honestly, most of the time, because
Mm-hmm.
in order to force the bubble, you usually need to use a certain amount of cooldowns in the first place.
Right.
So I think at this point, we just didn't have enough cooldowns, and usually if the red comes out of the stun, if usually the red paladin lives the stun, he's usually gonna be fine, unless I have mind games or something. So it was more like he used bubble. It's really hard, especially. Nah, it's just really hard to kill a paladin, like a good red paladin through bubble, honestly. Even on a good map like this, unless he really bubbles at like 5%, it's kind of hard to finish him off. And
Are most of the Red Pallies using the Prot Legendary in EU?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, against Shatter, they kind of have to. If they really didn't play it, it would be, they would like die even faster. They really have to. That's really the only thing that helps them, honestly, like survive long enough to even get a chance. Especially against,
I would
especially
not like
against
to play a
mages.
Red Pally into Shatter.
Yep.
That seems pretty miserable. Okay, yeah, I just thought that CC chain was really nice. I really liked how Thezia took advantage of actually rooting the Dispel, which is huge. You don't actually see that a lot. But if you actually rewind this clip, I'll pause it for you guys in chat. So he gets DB'd here, and I believe the Shaman actually dispels Kara's Poly here. So he dispels Kara's Poly here, and then Thezia gets a really nice root, and this is how he actually gets the ring, because he actually can't dispel the root because he just dispelled Kara. So I thought this was a wonderful play. And yeah, so I just thought this was beautiful. So
You can actually go back. I'll go back here.
Sure.
To the polymorph on the red. Let's see if I can find it.
Basically all the way at the beginning.
So here's the polymorph is on the red. The shaman decides to dispel it. And basically what we like to do. Oh, I think it jumped a little bit. I don't know why it's jumping, but basically he dispelled the sheep on the paladin. And what we like to do is when the healer dispels, I like to just land my stun on the target. So even though the healer might not be CC'd at the very time that I do stun him, he can dispel him anyway because it's on cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it's a good bonus to land a Ring of Frost there for sure. but there was no way out for the paladin unless he trinketed or bubbled anyway. So it's possible they would have forced bubble anyway. Would that go?
Okay, that makes sense. Taking advantage of dispels a lot here. Then it's basically a 2-for-1. That's really nice. All right, and we have another clip coming up. This on Ruins of Lordran, and same map, not same map, same comp, everything. And in the beginning here, they both run at you, Zuni. And I was wondering initially, are you the right target for them to go to? Because basically, when they're running at you here, you'll see, is Thezia just gets a free poly, just DB sheep, you know, basically gets it for free. Do you think you're the right target for them to go here, or you know, do you think this was a mistake from them? Do you think it's better to go Mage in general to stop the CC? Because throughout this game, I think there's another clip of this game. You know, Thezia just lands another DB sheep, and that's pretty much the game here.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that the only reason they go me in the start is I think because Tesh is an Invis, he's an Invis, so they can't really hit anything, so they kind of just rush me and try to stop some damage at the start. In terms of their target selection, usually what most Clays do, most Red Warriors do into Shatter, they kind of just hit whatever's closest to them, you know? I guess you see, like if I push, I'm just gonna give you an example. If I'm the one that pushing in and my mage stays back, they will hit me, and vice versa. If my mage pushes in and I stay back, they will go on my mage. They kind of just hit whatever's closest to the pillar because they know if they spend too much time in the open, there's a high chance that they may just, you know, flop.
They basically want their shaman or healer in general to not have to leave the pillar and be vulnerable to CC. So they just hit the target who is closest to their own healer.
Okay, and so are they kind of playing pretty much for dampening? What is their win condition, do you guys think here? Because, you know, switching back and forth, if you get a cooldown from this guy, then you go to the other guy, it seems kind of inefficient. Is their plan here basically just to almost get into dampening? Or,
Right, so, yeah, I think the win condition is to kind of win in dampening, maybe force me to get to lower mana as early as possible and then try to stop drinks. That way, when dampening does kick in, we can't live for as long as if I had full mana. But I do think Shatter has a very, very big... they're in favor a lot in this matchup for sure. So the win condition is slow, very low for the Warrior Ret, but basically they just want to get me to as low mana as possible and then try to push in and keep me low.
Okay, so basically max damage and live.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this next clip, this is actually the same match, same map. I just wanted to really show this because it was a beautiful kill. It was really darn quick too. Basically, Thezia here blinks in, gets a DB. They are on Zuni. Gets a DB sheep on the paladin, and Kara just melts in like 1 second. And you know, I guess on my notes here, was it a mistake to go priest? Is there an obvious mistake you guys saw here that they did?
It's a little bit more of a not being lucky, I would say. Sometimes when you hit the ret, you know, he's playing the protection legendary and it procs on 20% HP, right? So if you do like a big burst on, let's say, 21 or 22% HP, it will not trigger the legendary. It will just kill him immediately. So
I think we actually see
happened.
it proc, but he just
Yeah.
I think he just died through it.
I think it
Honestly,
might have procced on 1% and then he just died.
Yeah, I think he thought he was. That's the problem with. I think with the way Fire Mage Burst works is that you can kind of pop your combust late into a kill, and then you're not really sure how much damage you're gonna take. Like now, as you can see, boom, he's in like you know, there's literally 1.5 seconds left on his stun when he's 50%, and then boom, at the last second we pop, you know, Power Infusion and Combustion, Mind Games, and he just flops before he has. I mean, he gets surprised. That can happen. That can happen as a Red Paladin, to get surprised like that and just not press something. It's kind of like these like millisecond decision you have to make on the spot, and if you don't make it, then and you're a bit unlucky, then you can just die, I guess. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Kara.
All right, and we have a new game. It's you versus Skill Capped. And I wanted in this one, this is a little bit of a longer clip, but basically I wanted you guys to kind of explain how like turns work in PvP. So, how when you go, it's your go and they have to play defensive, and then it's, they go and it's your turn to play defensive. Like, how does that work in PvP? And also, the mind plays, and talk about like how what's your role as a Shadow Priest? Like, what's the best times to get MDs? I see you mind flaying too for the slows. Like, in general, what's the basis of PvP? Like the goes. How do the goes work? Like, when do you know to play defensive and when do you know to play offensive?
Um, I would say you go offensively when you have burst cooldowns. So let's say in the example myself, like Shadow Priest, when I have Void Eruption, when I have Power Fusion, when my Mage has Combustion, that's when I know that I wanna see the healer and try to kill them. That's, I would say, a good indication. Um, Other than that, yeah, I would say like that's like the main general rule for any class in the game. Like when you have burst, you want to obviously like try to see the healer and try to kill them, and time your burst on
Hmm.
whichever target you're hitting. And when you're defensive is when you don't have burst ready. When you don't, let's say I don't have silence ready, I don't have void eruption, I don't have disarm. Like for example, right now, as you can see, I have nothing. I just literally used all my CC, used all my burst, so I have nothing. So I'm kind of just like trying to peel. Here I grip, boom. I just trying to get maybe some heals. I try some, I just try and like peel here. Another mind control. We're just
Hmm.
trying to peel off and stop their go until we are ready to go again. I hope
Okay.
that answers your
Would
question.
that do you think would that be for most comps that people play, not even just Shadow Priest or Shatter? Basically, would that be a good tip for newer players? Is kind of trying to realize when it's your turn and when it's the other person's turn?
Yeah, for sure. I would say it depends on the comps you play. Of course, a hybrid like Shadow Priest can, of course, peel way more than, let's say, a DK. You play Feral. A
Hmm.
Feral can, of course, peel way more than maybe like a Windwalker or something. So there's obviously some classes that can peel more. But I would say the general consensus stays the same. As soon as you've done your go and you bursted, and you don't really have any offensive CDs for a long time, yeah, you just try and peel off really. And I mean, you still keep the damage going, right? You still need to do a lot of damage, but it's still, I think, important to, yeah, try and like balance a bit of both, offensively, defensively, offensively, defensively.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Um, did we miss a video or am I on something? Maybe I am on something. All right, our next video. So that's good, Chaz. I don't know if you have anything else to say to that in general about goes and how you play it defensively and offensively as a healer. Do you usually stay back with your comp right now, or do you go in for the kills? I know you hodge a lot of DPS a lot of times with the cross EC. Is that basically your plan, or do you ever want to actually run into the healer and get a hodge with the comp you're playing?
So on higher levels, it's kind of hard to do this like 3-2-1 setup. So like for example, Zunniaki stunning the healer and me stunning the warrior. It's a little bit too predictable.
Hmm.
So I think in a matchup like this, I just try my best to land a stun where I see he does not have the spell, for example.
Okay.
Or if my teammate calls that he has something with the healer. Uh, but mostly it's just about dragging the warrior and keeping him in defensive stance in this matchup.
Okay. Yeah, so I like that a lot. I feel like a lot of people don't actually look at dispels as often as they probably should. Is like how you said, is you basically wait for a dispel and then you get a full hodge because you literally can't dispel it. So that's really smart. I like that. All right, and our next clip here. Okay, this is kind of a funny one, and I guess I kind of want you to. This is mainly on you, Chaz. He basically played Ring Around the Rosie with the Paladin after he bubbles. And I know this may be, obvious to some people, but why do you basically do this? Wait, we might be a video ahead here. Let me see. We'll see what this video one. Okay, this is a video ahead. There we go. Here we go. Okay, this is the right video. So basically, the Pally bubbles a polymorph here and is running at you to get a Hodge. And I know this may be obvious to a bunch of people, but why do you play this Ring Around the Rosie basically? And what's the benefit to it?
All right, so like their only way of really killing us at this point is landing a CC chain on me. And their
Mhm.
paladin is He doesn't really want to spend that much time trying to land CC on me, so I just try to just annoy him a little bit by like making him not sure if I'm gonna let him do it or not. So he'd rather go back to healing and try to live. But at this point, it's just like he's not healing at all, and I'm just wasting his time. And the warrior ends up dying, but he's out of mana anyway. So
Mhm.
I'm
Okay,
just
so you're basically
yeah.
just avoiding it and delaying it because, yeah, you
Yeah, I'm
don't
just
wanna
trying
use
to
it.
waste his time as much as possible.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And on this next video, we have. I said Chaz talk about this setup. Very intelligent setup, extremely effective, beautiful. So let's take a look at this setup. Oh yeah, this is the bop. I love when you guys do this, and honestly, I feel like you guys are the only team who do this. Is you get the MC on the paladin, and then you bop him to put it on forbearance, and I think it's one of the sexiest things I've ever seen. So why do you think a lot more people don't do this? And maybe they do, but you know, in tournaments, we've basically only really seen you guys do it that as often as you do. What made you guys think of this? And yeah, you guys are basically the innovators of this, I feel like. So if you guys want to talk about what exactly you do and why you do it.
Well, I think this goes back to when we faced Drainer's team a lot. Basically, we needed a way to finish out the game in a surprising way because he was able to keep their teammates up really easily as protection. So it was like just a kind of a way to cheese kill Drainer back in the cups when we faced him, and then we just carried on with the. You know, it's not something planned, but we said if it happens, we're gonna take advantage.
Okay, so you don't really think ahead of about it, but
No,
when Zuni
actually,
tells you I can get an MC or
in this clip, actually, if I go back to the start, let's see here. If I can see. So they're actually 10 seconds before. I was at the pillar top left here on your screen, and they really wanted to stun me up and finish me because I don't have any trinket, I don't have any bubbles, so I'm actually dead if they connect. So I asked Zunniaki to grip me to the position where I'm now at, and basically their healer is chasing me in the open to try and stun me up to finish the game. And I believe I'm not sure if it's Suniotesia that made a call that we can mind control and bop in right here, because they're actually on their offensive. They wouldn't expect it, so it's actually a really good time to do it.
It just kind of happened because he was in the middle of the map too. That's also like what favored this particular swap. And just to answer your question in the start, Bean, as to why we're the only one doing it. First of all, I think the only comp you can really do this is if you have a combination of a priest and a paladin. So there's not that many comps that can actually do that without actually. Because obviously you're using one bop, but bop is obviously useless against double casters, right? So there's very specific matchups you can do it against. Let's say we did it against a warrior mage, for example. It wouldn't be as useful because we may need a bop defensively. But here in this case, we don't need a bop at all. So we kind of just
also, I guess you mentioned legendaries, so this would be a good time to mention legendary. I was watching the tournament and Frosty was using the Shadow Mend legendary, which honestly I don't even know what it does, but I know it just makes you have a big Shadow Mend. I don't know if you want to explain that or not, but in Supa or someone mentioned that you were using some offensive one. I really don't know Shadow Priest legendary, sorry, but could you go into like what is better at, did you switch it up or how does the Shadow Priest, how is the Shadow Priest in this matchup legendary wise and playstyle wise, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. No, so just to explain real quick, the famous Shadowman legendary is a legendary that every priest can use, and what it does, it basically buffs your Shadowman by a certain amount every 30 seconds. So it stacks, every 15 seconds. So basically after a minute, it increases your Shadowman by, I think like 200% or something, or 100%. So it really gives you a very, very high Shadowman. Basically, it will heal for a lot. And in this particular matchup, I didn't really know what to play, to be honest. So I kind of just went with the traditional legendary that you play as this particular comp, which is double PI, which means every time I power infusion my mage, I also get it. So we basically get that huge double burst going. It was really just, we've never really fought that matchup before, so I wasn't really sure what legendary was good. I think both were strong in their own way. One is a bit more defensive, one's a bit better offensively. But yeah.
Okay. Sure. One second. Sorry. I had one more thing here. I'm brain farting. Oh yeah, so anyway, so no one else really runs Shatter in EU other than these guys now, right? Or because you said you weren't really sure about this matchup. So are you guys basically the only ones in EU running Shatter for the most part, other than these guys now with the replacement?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think so.
Uh,
It's only us and Skill Cap right now that runs it.
Okay.
On NA there is Method NA. I believe that's the only team on NA replace it. I'm
Do
not
they?
sure.
I
Yeah.
guess they do sometimes. Like, yeah, okay, yeah,
Sometimes they do.
okay.
Yeah.
Guys, we are gonna take a quick 5 minute break, and we'll be right back after this break. Thank you for watching so far. What's up, guys? We're back with the Method PvP breakdown. By the way, chat, if you guys have any specific, ideally specific questions you have for Zuni or Chaz about comps, about plays, about anything like that, you guys can feel free to ask in chat, and we can answer those as well. But so far, we've gone through half the clips, Zuni and Chaz, and honestly, thank you guys for answering and being, pretty open with some secrets that people may have not known. But yeah,
For sure.
this is the first time, so some of the stuff may have been bad, but that I've asked. But
No, man, you're
yeah,
doing
Chad, if you guys have any-
fantastic. You're doing
wow.
fantastic, and your questions have been great, and I'm glad to be here. So is Chaz, right, Chaz?
Yeah.
There you go.
Why is Zuni so hot? Ah, yes. When are we gonna see Zunniaki disc Chaz Hunter? Wait, Zunniaki disc Chaz Hunter and Waz Ferrell.
Oh, there we
my.
go. No. Wait. Yeah. That's a great
Hopefully
question.
never.
There it is.
There was always a bit of so for the people that do not know, I've been playing Disc Priest for many years. I used to kind of main Disc Priest. So when Chaz and myself started playing together, there's been a bit we were like kind of just joking about the fact like, oh well, who's gonna heal now? Who's gonna play the Disc Priest? It was of course more of a joke because he should be the one playing it. But we kind of had this
How
talk.
did you guys handle that being two healers?
Um,
Did you just roll the dice, or did? Yeah, how did that happen? How did you guys decide who's going to be the actual healer?
Well, Zunniaki's been playing a healer for 2 years. No one would have minded if he played a discipline priest at all, but we thought it was just
2 years?
more
What do you
helpful.
mean 2 years?
Hasn't been 2 years.
This
Like
priest?
before you were DPS, like you were like healer back in 10 years ago. I know that, but
Oh,
as
yeah,
of
yeah.
recent competitive.
Oh, as of recently.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Anyway, so we thought it was just more obvious or logic to have me on the healers and have him focused on getting back into the DPS role, basically.
Okay. Zuni, do you multi-class right now, or are you planning to? And if you are, what class are you like interested in?
The only class I multi-class really is Red right now. It's just the class that I picked up early Shadowlands. I just felt like it was gonna be really good in Shadowlands, so I played a bit on beta and I enjoyed it a lot. And so I've only been really multi-classing, I think that one, like effectively. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing Red, and then we haven't really gotten to use it because just Shadow Priest just been honestly just I think stronger than Red, so we didn't really need the Red Paladin, but I still have it just in case
Okay.
we need it.
Naru asks, what's the best strat as God Comp versus Ardruids? I guess it's somewhat specific. How do you guys deal with Ardruids? As I guess we'd say like Ardruid Ret Warrior or something like that, maybe.
We haven't faced that actually.
Any Ardruid comps you guys have faced?
Not on the MMR that we usually play on. No, I think we would just do a lot of damage. I could see if you wanted to do really well into it, you could like force a dispel from the druid by maybe sheeping someone, maybe the warrior in a ret warrior rest druid, and then if he dispels, you can land a stun on the ret and then a mind games on the druid, so that he can't really heal and he can dispel the mind game or the stun. And out of the mind games, you could like follow with a silence or a stun sheep of some kind of like that.
Wow.
Okay, honestly, he said God Comp with Arrested Druid. I am bad at it.
Okay.
So, have you guys ever played that God Comp with Arrested Druid?
No, not as of yet. But we
fought
might
it.
try it.
We did.
Have
Oh, we
we?
haven't
Yeah,
played it.
oh,
We
yeah, we
actually,
have.
that's the only times we fought like a Rest Druid and Hyman Marth, I believe. We fought, so we were playing the Paladin version and they were playing God Comp, SP Mage Druid. And every time I fight a Druid, like they seem decent. Like they actually heal fine. Like the healing output is fine, but for some reason in dampening, it feels like they just lack the throughput and they're kind of just ooming, and at some point they kind of were just falling over. Also, one important factor is that when you play with a mage, you have Klepto. Kleptos are huge, I would say, counter in a way to Resto Druids. So if you have a mage and you play against a Resto Druid, like I feel like eventually just by doing the Haas, just spam doing damage, eventually the Druid can't really heal through the damage. And that's usually what was happening. The very few times we fought Resto Druid didn't happen much. Eventually the Druid just couldn't heal the damage, and we're just able to run them over. But hopefully next patch with the buff to Resto Druid, we'll see some maybe more Druids.
Okay. We have a question for Chaz. What do you think? What do you, how do you see the healing meta after the patch? Like, do you see it changing at all, or do you think it's going to stay pretty similar? Or
All right. So a lot of people asked me that on my stream, and I think that there's a lot of questions. Should I re-roll away from my Holy Paladin? I don't think you necessarily have to do that. I think this time it's more of more healers being available. I could see pretty much every healer except Mistweaver, sadly, having some kind of comp where they can really compete on a high level. So I'm not. I think Paladin's gonna stay one of the best healers. I do believe that, but it's not gonna be like a very dominant Holy Paladin meta. I don't think
so
so.
it's going to be more balanced overall, the healers, pretty much.
That's what I think. I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of the feeling I have about the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so as well. If I can just add up on that real quick, I think Holy Paladins will still remain insanely strong. I just believe that if really Warlocks and Shadow Priests take over, I think Pallies may actually struggle maybe the most out of every healer to heal the SP, well, no, Shadow Priest damage or Warlock like affliction damage. I feel like before it was really easy for Holy Pally to kind of heal through like that kind of spread pressure just because you had Shadow Aura, 15% damage reduction, you had Beacon, so it was kind of easy to like heal the big AoE pressure. But next patch might be a different story, and that might, as I said, might switch up things a bit. But in terms of healing, and I feel like if you don't fight a Warlock or Shadow Priest, I feel like Holy Pally will still probably remain the best.
Okay. Have you guys played around with any Frost Mage comps with the recent buffs?
No, not yet, but I think we might try it on when the patch is out. Not sure how good it's gonna be, but kind of interested in Shadow Priest, Frost Mage, Resto Druid. So we maybe try like that, and maybe some variation of Rogue Mage. Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, for all the melee players, it's gonna be rough.
Frost Mage Resto Druid combination. The only Frost Mage Resto Druid we have in NA is Grayson and Flop, and I fight them in twos, and I just want to log off, honestly. Even as a feral.
What is it? Is it those slows that mainly just?
It's just honestly, it's just miserable. It's the slows, and they're both spamming CC. Guy blinks over here, you're stuck in a Nova. Well, as a feral, you can shift it, but still a global or two, and it gives me anxiety. It's definitely anxiety-inducing. How do you guys play versus Turbo as Spell Cleave? So I guess as Shatter. How do you guys play versus Turbo?
That's actually one of the combos that we really struggle with in the cups. But again, it's a little bit kind of similar to Ret Warrior, where you want to drag the opponent healer into the open by just pulling back. And when the healer is running out in the open, you try to land CC and maybe abuse the dispel cooldown by sheeping one, stunning when the dispel is on cooldown, try to burst that way. But that's one of the combos we for sure had a lot of problem with, especially as Shatter.
Okay. All right. I say we get back into the clips and do a few more of these. We're about halfway done with them. So this next clip coming up here is you dealing with warriors, Zuni, and I kind of want to know how, as a Shadow Priest, you deal with warriors, because honestly, I feel like that must be kind of hard. As a feral myself, when a warrior's sitting on me, I don't like it, and I can shift into bear and run around a lot more. So as a Shadow Priest being basically stationary, how do you deal with that? Do you juke a lot? Do you basically, how do you deal with a warrior nowadays?
How do you deal with the warrior? Well, very important thing is I try to do, that might seem obvious or not, but I try to do a lot of counter pressure. So as you said, I would say like my best defense is almost my offense. into a warrior. I just try personally as a shadow priest. I just try and drag him away from his healer. That's what I'm doing right now. You see, I'm forcing their healer to kind of move in the open. That way I can open up some CC. That means my mage can CC him and I can do some damage. And as I said, I try to definitely juking is important if you can. But I just trying to do the most damage possible to him. I really try to counter pressure. On this map, it was the map we lost on. So it was a bit hard because there's so many pillars, and so it's kind of hard to drag them in an open spot. But if it was like a bigger map, I would just literally just drag the warrior constantly away, spam as much damage as I can, and try to counter pressure like that. Yeah.
Do you think you're for the enemy team? Do you think you're the right target to go after here?
I think so. Yes, I definitely think it's a good idea to stop a priest in this particular scenario. Like I remember the first game when we fought a skill cap to you, they actually went mage, and I felt like when I was free, I could just do whatever I wanted. I could freely mind control. I could freely mass the spell. I can help with the off heals. And when I'm targeted, not like a mage, as you say, it's kind of like feral. You have way more mobility. You can kite the warrior around. You can CC him a bit, at your convenience. As Shadow Priest, you're kind of just more reliant on your partners. So definitely think it's definitely I would say it worked out for them to go on me, at least on this map.
So Chaz, in this matchup, I actually saw you you used Aura Mastery. Do you, as a paladin, do you constantly change to Devo and Consecration Aura, or whatever Concentration Aura, or do you usually just stick with one the whole game? Like, is that a thing? Is that a min max a lot of pallies should do, or is it usually?
Yeah. So I know. Well, if I'm, for example, if I know for sure that's going to be set up by the opponent team that's going to be very dangerous, that potentially lead to a kill, then I could swap to the Devotion Aura and do the Aura Mastery. But usually I'm using Consecration Aura to try to help assist my teammates with landing important casts. Example, like a sheep on a healer, or a mind game, for example.
Okay, and Zuni, on a scale of 1 to 10, how annoying is Warrior with double reflect and intervene reflect, and is that what Warriors should be kind of playing against you versus mind games, and should they only really use it versus mind games, or what's like the best usage for a Warrior to really shut down a Shadow Priest? And honestly, if you don't want to answer that, that's completely fine. But
no, I will answer. It's fine. I'm sure. No, it's totally fine. I definitely yes. I think Warriors usually play that famous legendary that it's called, I think, Mishap and Mirror. It's every time they press reflect, it also reflects their partner. They can also play Overwatch, which will also, every time they intervene, will also put a reflect on the target they intervene. So that makes it really, really hard for Shadow Priest to get pressure, to get dots out, to get mind games off. And it's definitely a good idea that Warriors play it. It's really, I would say, what makes Warriors so strong in the first place compared to most melees, is they can assist their teammates so much. I feel like Overwatch is like kind of a cool talent in a way. There's so much you can do. You can intervene your partner, you can intervene your healer to prevent the sheep. There's just so much stuff you can do with it. And most Warriors usually, when they fight these kind of spell cleaves or mages, they will play it a lot of times. And I think it's a good idea because they understand that their lose condition is whenever they get whenever the priest gets a mind games or when they get CC'd a lot. So definitely a good thing for a warrior to play either Overwatch or that legendary reflect.
Do you basically almost always try to juke out the Overwatch and stuff, or sometimes you just let your mind games go knowing that they have it but they may not be like fully aware of it, or do you always like make sure they don't have it?
Most of the time I try to juke it now, especially when I fight top players. Honestly, I feel like most top players will always do it. They will always, honestly, they will always press it, right? They will always press something. So I try and do it also. I try to fake as much as I can. Sometimes I go for it. There's times where you just kind of have to go for it. You're like, okay, I have this one little, very small window where I can get it, and I'm just like hoping for him not to press it. So yeah.
Okay. And in this next clip, this is the same thing. You guys versus Skill Cap you. So I have it written down here. How how did you guys know you had the kill window? And could the kill window potentially been avoided by Asgarath if he positioned differently? Because right here you see he doesn't have trinket. And we could just watch the clip, but you'll see basically you kill him with 10 seconds left on trinket or something like that. Were you guys very aware of this, and could he prevented it?
Go ahead, Chess.
Well, just looking at it, they're playing very aggressive, right? So they're trying to land blinding light, or just hodge in general on me to try to force us defensively. But I think it was just a little bit of a mistake that they didn't think about that they have nothing left. And we
Right,
just
so
took advantage of their positioning. So like what they could have done is like played a little bit more defensive with their positioning. Because as you said, it's not that far away from him being able to trinket. So
Right,
it's just him overextending a little bit, I would say, in this clip.
Yeah, I think it's really hard. That's like it can literally happen to even though I can see the top healers. You can make sometimes, maybe the wrong call or something. You want to push for an offensive hodge. As you see now, he blinds Chaz. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna push for blind now. I have an opportunity to get it. It's good. They get the disperse, so it's good that he does it. But he kind of sacrifices position for it. So that's like when it's hard. All these small decision making are important. Even as a healer, to just position wise. So I'm sure if he looked it back, he was like, oh, maybe I should have done that and I should have stayed back. It was, but yeah, it can happen. Like I said, that even at the highest level, it can happen. Healers can make like maybe the wrong call at a certain time. So yeah.
Now, I don't know if you guys were you guys actively aware that you were going to get a kill here. And I saw before you got the kill, you actually Thezia actually DB'd and then Cheap Blizzo on the go, which was beautiful. Was this all? I don't know if you guys can remember, but was this all kind of planned ahead of time? Did you guys know you were going to do this with his positioning like this already?
Personally, I remember just saying, let's just kill this. Let's do one more go on the pally because we knew his trigger was coming back off, and we knew he didn't have bubble. In the game, we're not really sure exactly when his bubble is back. We knew for sure he didn't have bubble, but we knew his trigger was coming in 10 seconds or something. It was like, okay, let's do at least one more go on the healer, and it lined up. What was really nice for us is that he was in the open. That's also what mattered a lot because as Shadow Priest, like you can't really move too much. So if the fact that he was there, Chaz had a stun ready, like kind of all these little factors, all these small factors made it so that we were able to get a kill. Also, like so it was just
So basically, more on him and just kind of there at the wrong time, I guess.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, in a sense, yes. That's how it is a lot when you play Shatter. You abuse people's positioning a lot. As you said, Shadow Priest is very powerful, such an amazing class, amazing spec, but you don't have much mobility, so you kind of you kind of just hit whatever you can too, that's why we're usually on the warrior all game, and then as soon as we see opportunity to go on a healer, if we can, then we'll try to make that happen.
Okay. In this next clip, this is actually the finals versus skill cap to you. And I just want to know, as you see, the dampening is extremely high here, like in some of these clips, at least. What do you guys think would be the best thing to tell people just watching and learning? What's the best thing to do when it's a high dampening? Like, what are the most important things? Is it positioning? Is it lining, which I guess comes into positioning? Is it trying to get counter pressure? Is it trying to avoid? What do you guys think is the in general? What should you look for?
When it's really deep dampening, a lot of the times, like in this specific game, I think I did some mistakes which led me to being completely out of mana. But like generally speaking, both healers has some mana to heal with, and then it comes down to just trying to deal as much damage while taking as little damage as possible. Because it's already so high dampening, the healers can't really deal with it. So it really just comes with just trading damage with it. Yeah, just don't take damage, but do damage, kind of.
Okay. And I had it in here also what Shadow Priest let go, but we kind of went through that. So, All right, we have a long clip here. We don't have to go through the whole thing. It's about 13 minutes long. But I had a couple questions about this in general. These are basically about Godcom mirrors or Shatter mirrors. How do you guys feel about these mirrors now that you've like played them a little bit now too? Is it mainly just doing damage and it's trying to score like a random setup, or winning on mana, or what's like the game plan to win these mirrors in general? Do you guys like these mirrors, or how do you actually feel about how this matchup goes?
In my opinion, we didn't really have that much experience with Shadow Mirrors before. I don't think they had either. But basically, what it's about is on the top level is just have the healers needs to drink and have mana for deep dampening. And then if they manage to do that, then it comes down to the very last 2 minutes, 1 minute in the game, where whoever does the best decision making usually wins. So like a lot of the times in these kind of mirrors, the first 10 minutes doesn't matter too much. It's more about not messing up and just preparing for the late game and have as many cooldowns available and have as much mana as possible and just try to do the best decision making in very deep dampening.
Okay, so right here in general, you're just literally just doing damage and just trying to kind of him and stop him from drinking
Yeah,
for the first 7 minutes or something like that.
yeah,
I think both teams kind of had the same game plan in a sense. Is we may not see it on stream every time, but both healers are kind of just like trying to drink like all the time before dampening. I feel like both teams can't really kill each other before late dampening. It's like very, very, very hard. So what most teams do is they just try and spam damage, and until there's enough dampening, then you can maybe push in and do some CC. But until then, nothing really can die. So yeah, and just to answer your question, how we felt about the mirror, sorry, the matchup. If we like it, I mean, we weren't too sure since we've never really fought. I think like a shatter mirror, at least the paladin version, we've never really fought it. So we weren't too sure. And we were just trying some stuff, and they were trying some stuff, and it came down to small thing. I think just min-maxing, just doing a bit more damage, pushing in at the right times or not pushing in. It came down to really small things, and like most mirrors, it's always in WoW. It's sometimes it can be a bit maybe RNG factored, or it can come down to small things.
Okay. So you'd probably say positioning in general for this matchup is probably one of the most important things, just to not basically lose a cooldown without them having to use a cooldown, kind of just try to keep it as even as possible.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And is there a ideal kill target you guys have? Like, let's say everything goes perfectly. What's your what would you rather kill? What would be your like top kill here, like ideally?
It would be in this one. It would be a mage or paladin. But if the shadow priest is for whatever reason low on cooldowns or in a bad position, we can do a go on him as well and try to take him out.
Why not Shadow Priest?
I think it's
so people know.
a lot to do with the fact that you wanna like win in really deep dampening, and Shadow Priest has a lot of cooldowns. Like they have a fade and they have a dispersion. It's kind of low cooldown, and you can't kill them without those cooldowns being on cooldown. Whereas the mage will just automatically be forced to use the ice block in dampening because the healer will not really be able to heal him. So after the ice block is forced, the mage is just forced to play really defensive, and then there's just like one mistake or whatever from him dying. So he just has less cooldowns than a Shadow Priest, I would say, to rotate.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Go on, Zinni. What did you say?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's something we weren't sure either. We were kind of like, these games were kind of just hitting the priest more than the mage, and they were hitting the mage more. And we realized it a bit like late into the series that it did feel better to hit the mage. As just said, just Shadow Priest has way more shorter cooldowns, as you say. Like mage kind of has just block every 4 or 5 minutes, and that's really it. When priest has a fade 45 seconds, a dispersion minute and a half, so very more. And it also, something people forget, but priest actually takes 15% less damage passively, so it's also a bit more tanky. Mages have more mobility to make up for that, of course, but in dampening, like it doesn't really matter. All these bears and stuff don't really heal for that much anymore. And yeah.
So in this matchup, and you guys played a bunch of it this weekend, did you find like a specific legendary you liked, Zuni? Like did you find one you preferred rather than, or yeah, which one did you prefer at the end of it, I guess?
I don't really know. I think that the Shadowman legendary felt good. That's what both Shadow Priests ended up playing. The reason the usual legendary I play was what was it again? It's the double PI, the twins called
Yeah,
twins something.
double PI.
Double power infusion is not as effective because both the mage and the priest can dispel that.
Dispel it.
So it wasn't really as effective, and it's something I tried early in the games, and then I started playing without it. I think Shadowman legendary is definitely really good. It just heals for so much, and it can actually assist a lot with the healing on the pally. So it's probably, I would say, definitely has the advantage in this particular matchup. So yeah.
Okay. Chaz, what legendary do you use here? Do you use the protection one, or what are Holy Pallies kind of using these wizard mirrors?
I play Shock Barrier in this mirror. I can be the target, but if I'm the target, it doesn't happen a lot. And I really need to min-max my healing to keep up with my mana. So if I would go for the tank legendary, I would probably Ooming way more than he would. So it wouldn't be a really good thing.
Okay. Okay, that's good. In this clip, if I go back here, I just want to do. Some people thought, and I mean this isn't that big of a deal, but I caught this, so I felt really smart. Okay, so back here when Thezia gets really low and actually blinks back, a lot of people thought this was actually the Shadow Mend legendary that actually healed him up totally full. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm pausing right now, but it was actually Divine Toll, boys. It was actually a Divine Toll, a big Divine Toll. And does Divine Toll actually get nerfed for Holy? Do you guys know in 9.05? Or is it just red?
I believe so. What's happening to Divine Toll is the Judgment part gets nerfed. But I believe so what Divine Toll does, it spams out a few Judgments or Holy Shocks depending on what target you're healing a friend or an enemy. So I think it's gonna take a little bit longer time for the entire, all of the cast to just get out. Right now it takes like half a second, maybe. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but it's definitely gonna take a little bit longer for the cast to completely finish. So that could be a nerf. I think it is a nerf, but I'm not sure how much of a nerf it's gonna be. So yeah, that's.
So I'm just gonna skip to the end of this video since you guys said basically at the end of the and I hate watching when I lose too and stuff like that. I hate. I don't know if you guys mind or don't mind. But basically, so at the end of these games, chat is this is kind of what they're talking about. Where at the end of the game, it just really matters who's the one trading cooldowns properly, or who plays basically in general probably better at the end. And this might not be who plays better. It might be just so late damp that the small minuscule little things matter. But this is kind of the end of the game, and if you guys wanted to see what Zuni was talking about, basically at high dampening, this is basically how volatile this matchup can get. People can get really low, but at the end of the day, it's whoever does these little min maxes a little bit better that will win the game here. So we could just watch the rest of this here. How do you guys have fun in these mirrors, or is this not that fun?
Personally, from my point, it's okay. It's not the most annoying matchup. I feel like there's more annoying matchups. It felt fine. It's a mirror, right? So you're just fighting the exact same classes. It felt fine. It just it was just a bit hard to know sometimes how to play the matchup perfectly. But yeah.
Yeah. So but I think in our mistake, we were actually. We're leading a lot with mana, and we're still leading with mana, and so we decided to go in and try to finish the game. We said afterwards that we probably picked the wrong target because the Shadow Priest. We went for the Shadow Priest, and he has lower cooldown times for Fade and Dispersion. So if we just hit the Mage or the Paladin, we probably would have been able to win this game, but just came down to our target decision. So they hit our mage and we hit their shadow priest. He had cooldowns to rotate with, and we actually ended up using all ours in a very short time span. So they just managed to win the game.
Okay, so it was basically just kind of wrong target choice at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
but I do think
Okay.
we had the upper hand before we started pushing in for sure.
Okay. In our next video, or actually, we could skip the next one, because that's the Divine Toll that I thought was really cool. The next video after that is, I think this actually might be what we just watched. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh yeah, okay, this is it. Okay, so was there anything you guys could have done when Battle Master dropped? So basically, Thesia blocks here with Battle Master, and Battle Master drops into 1% health. Was there anything you guys could think of that you maybe could have done better to prevent this kill, basically?
Oh yeah, that. So if we go to the start, let's see how far we can go. But oh, you can see
It's
me.
not
Okay.
too far. Sorry.
So I'm gonna pause it here.
Mhm.
It's actually my mistake here. I was out of position. It's very deep dampening, and when you tank CC in very deep dampening like this, it's just not a good thing. And also Tessia had used his kleptomania to steal the enemy mage alter time, so he did not have it ready for his combustion. So in combination with him having kleptomania on cooldown and me being in a bad position, basically led to their mage having a full combust in deep dampening, which or just basically landed the kill on our mage.
Okay, yeah, it's nice that you guys can really identify that for everyone. So that's, yeah, I like that. So Pally's positioning and yeah, dampening is very dangerous. The dampening is very dangerous, basically.
It's like a good example where it's like nothing really happened for 10 minutes, and then it was really deep dampening, and I do like a positional mistake, and then it just like snowballs really fast from there.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. On our next clip, we have oh, okay. This is kind of like maybe a small thing for newer people. Basically in this clip, it's nothing much. It's basically showing Thesia rebuffing and Venruki and everyone talking about rebuffing and how important is rebuffing in this specific matchup and in general. Would you say you should always keep your buffs up? And I know versus this there's a Shadow Priest, right? So dispel protection. You guys want to talk about how important dispel protection really is and how important the buffs potentially are, having that extra intellect from AI and all that?
I definitely think it matters quite a bit. I think Arcane Intellect is 5% intellect. It used to be, I think, 10% in the past. So maybe not as impactful as it was maybe in DFA. Same with Powered Fortitude. It used to be 10% stamina. Now it's 5%. So, but a buff is a buff, right? It's still useful to have it up and to rebuff, because it also, usually in these mirrors, the Shadow Priest can kind of spam the spell, so you can dispel the enemy barriers and stuff like that. So having a lot of buffs up the whole time just makes it harder for both teams to kind of just dispel each other off.
Okay, yeah, especially with Triune War too. It's just there comes a lot of buffs. So
For sure.
okay. Yeah, that was a pretty short one. Our next clip here is for you, Zuni. Once it shows, it basically, I guess the basic question of it is, what's the most value of MD you can get? Do you often look for it defensively or offensively? Because I know in this game right here, you actually get a double MD, which is obviously a jackpot. But when do you have any specific like rule of thumb when you actually look for an MD, or basically just feed us your thoughts on in general priest gameplay?
All right, so in this particular matchup, if I can get a master spell on not only my healer, but potentially get the dots off myself or on my mage at the same time, that's always nice. If I can get some dots away, I feel like that's always a good thing. So yeah, whenever I master spell, of course, let's say my healer is sheeped, I will of course, if I can, aim it in a way where I can potentially also get my dots off or my mage. That's really it. Really, you just every time your healer's in CC, you just try and get a massive spell, and then I said if you can here I dispel myself, you see I dispel, or my mage is VT also, right? So I dispel dots at the same time. So that's always like a nice little extra value.
Okay. Do you actively look for like the enemy mage having CS up, or do you usually obviously this might be pretty situational, but do you actively try to juke MD usually if they do have CS, or do you just try to get it out and get the CS out of the way and then keep going? I guess it might depend on whether how much danger you're in or something like that, but
I would say most of the time I actually try to juke it because it's usually most of the time mages will stop it. So I usually always try to MD. But if I could add one thing, and that's important, you shouldn't really just fake yourself forever. That's some players sometimes they will do that. Not just on MD, but a lot of spells they'll just try cast mass spell or cast a certain spell, boom, trying to fake it, trying to fake it, trying to fake it for like 2, 3, 4 seconds, and in that time you're kind of just losing time faking where you could have just gotten the MD off, and if you get locked you can do other spells. So I think it's in my situation I try to maybe juke it once, maybe twice, but if the mage is really not CSing me even at 90% to the cast or whatever, then I'll just get it off, and if he CSs me that's fine, I can cast the Shadowman or something. So definitely think it's important to not over juke yourself. If you're playing a caster, you shouldn't be like always trying to fake constantly for, let's say, more than 3 to 4 seconds. You're losing time too. It's important to just sometimes go for it, tank it, or and so you can press other stuff.
Okay. And we are on our last clip.
Ooh,
this is
alright.
basically not a pleasant clip for you guys to watch, I'm sure, but I just wanted to put it out there. Do you guys think there's anything you could have done differently? Basically to keep Desi alive here, could he have maybe lined the Shadow Priest more? What if you watch this clip, what do you think would be like? Were you guys just effed here?
From I think the call was we wanted to kill the healer. He does not have trinket, he does not have bubble, so we said let's try to land a stun on him and kill him, but he was able to avoid it for like 10-15 seconds, which led us be in a very bad position. And as I said earlier, it's a lot of like these kind of matchups, it's about taking as little damage as possible while doing as much damage as possible, like abusing positioning a lot. So we basically pushed in and we exposed ourselves really like way too much, and we didn't even we weren't even able to land the stun. And throughout all these 10-15 seconds they were doing maximum damage, and so basically they just won the game by doing that.
Okay. So that's basically the end of the clips in general. Do you guys feel more confident in this matchup, or when you fight them again, do you guys have a better understanding of the matchup and how it should go and all that? Do you think from all these games?
I think we do have a better understanding for sure. I think they might too. I would say that I'm very confident. I wouldn't mind doing it again, but we don't know how it's gonna be with the changes. Maybe there's gonna be another healer in the matchup. Maybe there's frost mages. We're not sure, but for this series, both teams was kind of inexperienced, I would say, and they just came out on top this time. It might be different next time. Who knows?
Okay. And I guess for the circuits, do you guys think your biggest enemy is probably going to be skill capped, or are you afraid of any specific teams? Worried about how the patch might affect some of their classes or anything like that, or yeah, who are you guys? I guess maybe this is not a good question to answer, but who are you guys most scared of? I guess.
Question. I would say in terms of teams, they probably are, yeah, definitely. In terms of skill, in terms of comps, they're or probably our toughest opponents. There's other teams that are also really good, but they don't have as many compositions, so they maybe only have, like, for example, Kara's team, they only have the Red and the Warrior. So even though they're really good players, they only have 1 to 2 comps, so it's easier to deal with these kind of teams than teams like maybe Mar and Blizzo, who can play like 3 to 4 different comps at a higher level. It's definitely harder to deal with, harder to think about. But in any case, we're feeling pretty confident overall. I think we have a really high chance of doing insanely well. We have the comps, we just need to put in the practice now, work on a few little extra things, and I think we should be good to go. I think we should be ready to pump it.
Okay. When do you guys, do you ever plan on taking RMP out again, or what comps do you like to play RMP verse in general? If you want to answer that, if not, that's fine. These are
Well,
just random off the top questions.
yeah.
So.
Well, we felt like the best teams were able to deal with Rogue Mage pretty good in the current meta. We're not sure. We do know there are some changes to some covenants. A lot of rogues go, for example, Venter. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it's gonna be, but if it's like a big buff and we're comfortable with playing it, then we might be playing it way more than we are now. So I'm also looking forward to see Assassination. I really like Assassination as a spec in tournaments, rather than sub.
Yeah, I was gonna
But
ask about that. There is some like a little bit of an assassination buff coming in with like basically free slice and dice or something like that on combo points. Do you think Asa potentially makes like kind of a comeback for you guys specifically?
I would hope
We don't
so.
really know for sure. I think Asa is okay right now, and it's getting. I mean, I don't think it will matter enough. It would take some practice. I would say right now, I think Warrior kind of has the spotlight, and you're talking about yourself being how in yourself as a pharaoh, you kind of get outshined by Warriors. I feel like as long as Warrior remain as dominant as they are, I don't think Asa Rogue should ever take their place. Even if Asa Rogue gets slightly buffed, I just feel like even though like Astrog may be doing a lot of damage, so same as Ferals do a lot of damage, a lot of peeling, it's just not, I guess, comparable to the way a warrior can do it. Yes, exactly. So I think, it might be good enough. It might be really good. It might be good, Asa buffs. But is it going to be enough? Only time will tell.
So do you guys think I mean, this is probably pretty obvious. In chat, if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them out right now. But do you guys, Warriors, the top melee for sure, would you say right now?
Warriors, definitely the top melee. Yes, definitely the top melee. I think. They honestly, if you don't have a warrior in your team and you fight like another cleave, I feel like generally like you're pretty big. You're at a disadvantage, I would say. Let's say you play a Windwalker plus a red. I feel like you should lose to a warrior and a red. In most cases, I just feel like the warrior just outshines with the intervene. Not in every situation. Not in, it's not a general rule, but I do think warrior probably is the top melee, and we've seen it in most tournaments. I believe we've seen just usually the warrior is coming on top, or is usually more played than any other melee, right? So definitely would agree with that.
Would you what if you could right now, if you were a GM, if you want to talk about this, what would you buff or nerf in some classes right now? If you want to, just give a little overview of some things you'd like to see nerfed or buffed.
I would like to see like classes in general be designed in a way so that when like they use their cooldowns, they don't, for example, fire mages, they don't completely blow someone up. It's more like of a 20-30% damage increase. That's like something I would like to see more from WoW.
So more like consistent over
Yeah.
cooldowns.
I do think cooldowns should be like increasing whatever damage or healing, but it shouldn't be so much that it's just like extreme,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really hard because it's a question that we all ask yourself all the time, like what could we change or what could we nerf, what could we buff. I definitely believe that balancing WoW and PvP specifically is probably one of the hardest thing ever. It must be the most it must be really complicated because it's very complex. WoW PvP is so complex. Like I said, like nerfing like one class by a little bit can indirectly buff another one, and vice versa. I feel like indirectly buffing one class can indirectly nerf another one. So it's very, very complicated to buff and nerf in WoW PvP. But what I would say is I would like somehow the meta be a bit faster. It seems like, even in the tournaments we've seen last weekend, for most matchups ended up due to mana in a lot of cases. I feel like not all of them, of course, but a lot of them, tend to go to higher dampenings. I wish the game was a bit faster paced in a way that there was, way to have a chance to get
outside of
kills
dampening.
before
Mhm.
yeah, outside of mana, outside of just outside of
Yeah.
high amounts of dampenings. That's what something I would change. I would somehow make it so that the pace becomes a bit faster, so that mana isn't just your main kill condition,
Yeah.
I guess.
True.
Do you think the best way for Blizzard to kind of get around this, as you said, buffing something can nerf another class indirectly, and nerfing something can buff another class indirectly? Would you say the best way to kind of counter this is more like a lot of consistent changes, like them changing, let's say, reduce damage 5%, then monitoring that class and see what happens in the meta, and then next week tweaking some things, or do you think it's best of how they do, like a patch every month or so, and let the meta ride out and kind of evolve by itself, and then really make their decisions a month or two after?
I think there've been. It's it's a tough question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not a developer, but or not a designer, but it's hard to know. I mean, ideally, I would say yes, it would be good to have changes every week, but is it really that healthy for the game? I'm not too sure. Maybe it is better to wait, a bit, as you said, like maybe wait for months, see how things evolve, see what's really needs to be changed. That's probably a more reasonable solution, to just wait at least a month in between and make the
Mhm.
small changes here and there. And I feel like they've been doing pretty good. I mean, they've nerfed mages, they're nerfing holy pallies
Mhm.
a little bit every time. They did the same with mages. They got nerfed like I think twice. Um, so I
Can we
think
see a condemn nerf? Amen.
there's small things there. Yeah, people talk a lot about intervene. People complain that's like probably the main concern about intervene. It is really really OP against melees.
Yeah.
But then again, how do you change it? Do you obviously can't completely remove it, so you have to change it. It depends a lot of, I guess, some form of testing, and it's complicated because I'm sure Blizzard is afraid they don't want warriors to completely disappear, so they need to
Right.
find a balance to still make intervene viable, but without being completely broken in some situations. So it's a tough
Yeah,
deal. It's a tough job.
I agree. We have a question here. Thoughts on WMP versus Shatter? Which comp is usually favored?
Warrior Mage. So Warrior Mage Priest, I assume, or Paladin was Priest, I assume, right?
I don't know.
Is it Warrior
I guess
Mage?
both.
The question was Warrior Mage Pala or
Uh,
into. All right, I see the
Into
question.
Shatter.
So I'm assuming it's a Paladin, right? I think it's possible that Warrior Mage wins, but it like in EU it was Shatter winning Warrior Mage. I think if we kept playing and them playing Warrior Mage and we played Shatter, maybe they would have figured out a way. I'm not sure. It is possible.
I definitely think it's not like Warrior Mage is such a good comp that I'm sure there's a potential to beat Shatter consistently. Maybe I think it depends the team who plays the best in a certain series. But on top of that, I feel like we had this talk, with our team recently, and we were saying that how like people aren't too like people aren't too sure about each matchups. They don't know for sure what beats what. There's, for example, there's Windwalker Mage versus Warrior Mage. People are like, oh well, Warrior Mage should win, and then some people say no, Windwalker Mage should win, and like people aren't just really sure. I feel like
Mhm.
in some particular matchups, I think it's because I mean Shadowlands is obviously kind of new still, and there's the game evolves so much with the way when there's nerfs, when there's buffs, also when we get new traits, we get new conduits, things like that. So the game evolved so much every like 2 weeks or something. Like there's small changes, but it actually mattered a lot. So the game changes a bit, and people aren't too sure what's good or what's bad. So and I assume that in a couple weeks, a couple months, as soon as meta is established again, then maybe we'll know better who has an advantage in particular matchups. But it's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
Okay. And I guess probably the last question here is, for me specifically, do you guys think, and I don't want you to say yes or no if it's gonna, be
Yes.
bad for you guys, but do you guys think your comp Shatter has a hard counter, or is it kind of just good versus everything kind of thing? Um, Yeah.
I think Turbo was really like LMH and Turbo in this current patch was really hard for us. But I do think that on Wednesday, when the Shadow Resistance aura goes away, I think the Shatter is actually the more dominant one. I think that Shatter might be one of the. I'm not sure what healer is going to be used, but I do think Shadow Priest Mage is going to be one of the best combos tomorrow when the patch hits. So it's going to be exciting to see what healer is going to be the best.
I think
Okay.
so too. Yeah, we had this. We were talking about it too because I was like, really Shadow does not have many counters. Honestly, it really doesn't. Like when we play on the ladder, we honestly just it feels like it's just really good against a lot of things. Really, it feels like we can beat anything. And I believe I don't know. I have a feeling like Shadow Priest and potentially Warlock comps too will become so good after tomorrow. That I think Shatter may potentially be the best comp after Wednesday. That's just my speculation. I think it should be in theory.
You love to hear that. That's cool.
I mean, there might be changes too. We don't know. There might be nerfs. We don't know
Right.
what's coming. But I have a feeling Shatter will be the best. I already thought is like very top tier. That it really barely has any counters, and that's the reason why we went into the mirror ourselves, right? It's because we knew
Right.
that there's no real like hard counter that we had. At least the few counters they had, or like maybe something was an Ellie or an enhance, which we don't have. But in any case, I think Shadow will be insane after Wednesday, even better than it was before. Paladin's losing Shadow Aura is gonna make, I think, a huge difference, and it's gonna buff Shadow Priest so much.
Okay. Do you think when they had Zeepai, when Skillcapped had Zeepai, do you think the Shaman was really what gave them that distinct advantage versus you guys?
Yeah, for sure. I would say so because ZZPie was obviously an amazing Ellie and an amazing enhance, so that allowed him to have like very top tier comps into almost any team. That's what they were able to beat basically every team, because they played these comps at a high level. We saw Ellie Mage I think in NA in the tournament last week and actually won. I think on NA they actually played Ellie Mage. I think people are starting to realize how strong that comp also was. I think traditionally people didn't really play it that much on NA, but now they started playing it.
Go on, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, that was all I was gonna say.
I just remember like probably a month or so ago is someone was mentioning Ellie Mage, and then they also went back on their word after saying it was pretty gimmicky. I'm not sure exactly who I heard it from, but yeah, no, I think it's probably a pretty good comp, and it probably just needed that evolution to really at least in NA to really set the scene there. So yeah, it's funny how you could start thinking something's pretty bad until someone really finds out the exact script for it or the exact way to play it, and then it just becomes really insane.
Correct. So. True.
Anyway, question for Zunniaki: Do you think my spirit animal is a lion with his majestic mane of hair?
I mean, is he? I don't know. Does he play? Do you play a feral? If so, then probably. Yeah, for sure. Okay. We should ask that question to Bean. He's the feral mane.
Yeah,
here.
I am.
He's the lion.
Yes, that's what I'm going for with this hair. It's not just a Corona cut. It is what I'm going for. That's so nice that you found that out. But anyway, do you guys have anything else you want to tell people or add here in general before we get off?
I don't know.
Chassis boy, you want to say something?
Hope you guys are cheering for us in the upcoming tournaments. I guess you can find me in the WAS streaming, as you might know. Occasionally, he streams
your stuff out.
He streams full time. Yeah, most people know that already. But I started to pick up some streaming this year. So if you wanna watch some high-rated healer point of view, then you can go to my stream, Twitch TV /Shast TV. Type it in chat. So yeah.
Zuni, anything you want to? You want Twitters or anything like that?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Zunniyaki_. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope that you enjoyed the show. Thank you, Bean, for hosting. I know it was your first time. I think you did a phenomenal job. It really was a pleasure. Thanks to the other people that helped organize this, of course. And it was Bookmark. I'm not sure if there was somebody else, but thank you guys for making this possible. It was really fun. and hopefully we'll have more in the future, and give some more insight, give some more feedback on
Mm-hmm.
WoW PvP, and yeah, excited for the new patch tomorrow, and yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
Alright.
so much for tuning in.
And mine is Bean, guys. If you want to, I am Bean, just Bean. And yeah, thank you guys for coming. And honestly, thank you for giving your insight on everything, guys. Chaz and Zuni, it's cool talking to you guys. I haven't talked to you guys for a couple of years, so this was cool.
Sure,
And
man.
I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed the insight you guys gave on all the games. So thank you everyone for watching, and
We'll see you next time.
see ya. See you next
Yeah,
time.
guys.
Amen.